For years, Brendan and Sanne have dreamed about building a camper van and leaving their normal routine behind for life on the road. But once the build finally begins, the reality hits fast. One wrong decision inside such a small space can create problems that are almost impossible to fix later. Every inch matters, every system has to work together, and the pressure starts building long before the van ever leaves the driveway. A second-hand Fiat Ducato from late 2021 sits with about 80,000 kilometers on the clock. Despite its age, Brendan, an electrical project manager, and Sanne, an architect, view the vehicle from a different perspective. They see potential, something that could be turned into much more than just a van. Instead of working from home and dealing with unpredictable Dutch weather, they rent a workspace. At first, it feels like an extra cost they could probably avoid, but it doesn't take long before it proves its value, making everyday work a lot easier and more practical. After the interior is fully stripped out, a new subfloor is laid and the floor gets proper. The work moves on to the anti-drumming plates. These are fitted to help cut down the noise coming through the van while it's on the road, making everything feel a bit more solid and quiet inside. They decide to remove some columns to gain a bit more length for the bed. 2 other columns are also taken out to make room for the windows. In their place, a wooden frame is built, fitting neatly between the 2 steel beams. That small adjustment alone gives them about 5 extra centimeters of bed space. Before any cutting starts on the roof, masking tape is placed around the area where the cut will be made. It acts as a buffer between the jigsaw and the surface of the van, keeping everything free from scratches. The most common fan seen in campers is usually the Max Air fan, but they go with a different option that looks and works almost the same, the Flying Roof ventilator. Now the first roof light finally goes in. A good amount of sealant is laid down, more than enough so it starts squeezing out around the edges, and that's exactly what they want to see. It looks messy for a moment, but it means the seal is solid and fully waterproof. In practice, the fan keeps the air moving, helps maintain good air quality, and makes the inside feel much fresher. Brendan prepares the cut surfaces for the side and rear windows. First, the surrounding paintwork is carefully protected with masking tape. Then the markings are checked again, making sure the height, alignment, and symmetry all line up properly from both inside and outside reference points. They go with mace windows because, unlike fixed ones, these can actually open, and that makes a big difference for airflow inside the van. Sliding windows are an option too, but these feel more practical. They can be left open even in light rain, since they act like a small canopy, so ventilation keeps going without worrying too much about water getting in. Each set also comes with a handy template right in the box. It gets cut out and used as a guide, making the whole installation much easier and more precise. Then it comes down to the familiar step, sealant. A lot of it. It starts to bulge out quite noticeably. But that's exactly what they expect. Once the frames are tightened into the wooden frame, even more sealant is pushed out. It's thick, sticky work, and everything has to be handled with care as it goes along. The insulation material is lightweight, flexible, and easy to cut into all kinds of shapes. The self-adhesive backing also makes installation much easier, especially in tight corners and awkward spots. But insulation in a van is about much more than staying warm. It also helps prevent condensation, keeps moisture from building up, and doesn't absorb water itself. All the electrical cables are run through flexible conduit pipes across the van. The copper wiring already comes with a protective rubber coating, but constant movement can cause wear, and things can get dangerous very quickly. Insulating the difficult areas of a van takes a lot of careful shaping and detailed work, especially around tight cavities, curved corners, and uneven structural sections. Templates are often made first for the smaller areas so the insulation can be cut accurately before it's installed. In the curved spots, precise angled cuts are needed to help the material follow the curves and transitions of the van. Next comes the bed platform, one of the first parts that really starts making the camper feel like a living space. Sanne assembles the slats onto the frame, securing each timber piece one by one. As the structure comes together, the platform turns solid, while still staying lightweight and strong enough to handle everyday life inside a moving van. They make custom corner pieces to mount one of the bed beams. The rear corners of the van are slanted, and missing these fittings, the bed couldn't be pushed this far back, and a lot of valuable space would be lost. They also add 2 extra beams for better support and structure. In a small van, every centimeter really counts. They've been debating whether to install a small ventilator or a window in the shower area, and in the end, they go with the window. It brings in natural light, which instantly makes the space feel less closed in. On top of that, it adds a bit of extra headroom, something that matters, especially for Brendan, since the shower tray will likely reduce the standing height once it's in place. They coat the wooden frame for the roof light with hammerite for wood, giving it extra protection against moisture damage. In a camper, the shower area is the wettest spot, so over time there's always a lot of humidity and direct water exposure to consider. The gaps between the frame and the roof are filled with small spacers, so they don't have to rely on excessive amounts of sealant to fill everything in. Swivel seats are one of the most practical upgrades in a camper conversion because they turn the front cabin into part of the living space instead of leaving it as a separate driving area. So, the space flows together more naturally and feels far more intentional. For the water tank installation, they drill a hole through the bottom plate so the system can be drained easily after a trip. The tank itself is mounted at the rear of the van, shaped to follow the curve of the wheel arch and make the best possible use of the available space. It's one of those parts of the build that won't really be seen in the finished camper, but it makes a big difference when it comes to everyday comfort on the road. Now it's time to lay down the vinyl glue. It's waterproof and handles both heat and cold, which is important since the temperature inside never stays the same for long. For the finish, they go with a beige, concrete-look vinyl. It has that soft, warm feel that instantly makes the space like home. The tank box gets a slightly darker, warm tone that makes the interior feel softer and more inviting. It's pretty clear the insects are going to love the big sliding door of the van, so they start thinking ahead and take steps to keep them out of the van. The couple picks up a ready-made insect screen made specifically for the Fiat Ducato. For the walls, Sanne goes with plywood, while she leans more toward a cleaner, more refined look. The idea is to hide the frame behind the wall panel, so the window sits neatly inside a simple opening without the frame being visible. It creates that minimal cut-out-in-the-wall kind of effect she often uses in her architectural projects. The shower cabin becomes one of the key elements that shapes the entire layout of the camper. A lightweight plywood frame is built first, keeping things strong but still easy on weight. Inside the frame, a compact shower tray is fitted and is connected underneath the van, where the gray water tank collects everything and keeps the setup self-contained and practical for life on the road. For areas that are constantly exposed to moisture, builders usually go for moisture-resistant or marine-grade plywood. Marine plywood is made with waterproof adhesives and fewer internal gaps, which makes it much more stable when it's regularly exposed to damp conditions. Even with careful preparation, unexpected issues still come up, and finding solutions becomes just part of the work. For example, a square opening gets cut for a roof ventilator, even though it was meant to be round. Small mistakes like this happen along the way, and they simply get worked around as the build moves forward. Brendan starts working on the plumbing system and lays out the first set of water pipes. He installs a water pump so the water can be pushed through the pipes on demand. Also, he adds a water level gauge showing exactly how much water is left and when it's time for a refill. The shower interior will be finished with vinyl, but before that, Sanne waterproofs all the corners. She uses a roll of sealing strip and a waterproof base to make sure every joint is completely watertight before the vinyl goes in. She applies 2 layers over everything so nothing stays exposed, since this layer protects the entire structure from moisture over time. Meanwhile, Brendan installs the water line for the shower tap, which will sit inside the double wall. Unlike the other wall panels, he fixes this one in place with Polymax glue. It's a solid hold, but it also comes with a downside. If anything goes wrong behind it later, access won't be easy. He also builds a nozzle for the heating system, directing warm air under the table. That way, cozy feet are guaranteed in the winter. The interior surfaces are finished with a continuous layer of vinyl, creating a fully waterproof enclosure. In a shower environment, vinyl proves to be a strong choice, combining reliable water resistance with flexibility and durability. Its non-porous surface doesn't absorb moisture, which helps prevent swelling, mold, and long-term damage when it's installed properly. Visually, the vinyl finish gives the shower cabin a clean, uniform look, making it feel more refined and naturally integrated into the overall interior design. Together with its waterproof performance and low maintenance, it proves to be a highly practical solution for compact, wet areas in camper conversions. The toilet drawer is also in place. This opening keeps the whole setup compact and flexible, so the space stays open and uncluttered when the toilet isn't being used. A watertight boat hatch is also installed, sealing the opening properly while still allowing easy access whenever it's needed. Brendan then adds the finishing touches to the shower cabin by installing the water tap. He connects it with the water system behind the wall. With that final piece in place, the setup is almost a fully functional shower, ready to be used once the last details are finished and tested. Smart space use in a camper van comes down to making every element work harder, so nothing goes to waste. One of the most effective solutions is modular, transformable furniture. That's one of the biggest challenges in a van conversion. Nothing is ever perfectly straight. Everything is curved, or just slightly off in its own way. Sometimes it's not even just an angle, but an angle on an angle. Measurements get checked repeatedly, and parts are made with custom templates to ensure a proper fit. Brendan builds a battery bank using 4 100 ampere-hour lithium batteries. He connects the main positive and negative cables to the bank, keeping both runs equal in length and wiring them diagonally. This helps balance the system so the batteries work together as one unified setup. They buy a comfortable mattress from IKEA, but the standard size is 2 meters. And the bed measures 188 centimeters, so it only needs a slight trim. 2 angled corners also need to be cut to match the rear shape of the van. Luckily, that part is fairly simple. For the finishing touches, they pick up very thin birch plywood, also known as aircraft plywood. It's only 3 millimeters thick and extremely flexible, yet surprisingly strong. It helps bring the design together, creating a cohesive birch block effect running along one side of the van. At the back, the birch already starts to define the space, forming a strong visual block along the right side of the van. It ties the interior together and gives the whole build a more cohesive, structured look. Before the kitchen cabinets are mounted, they first install a back panel. This makes it easy to access, route, and organize all the cables hidden behind it, without having to deal with everything later, once the cabinets are fixed in place. In the upper cabinets that include lighting, they build in a double bottom. This extra layer hides all the wiring cleanly, so nothing is exposed and the interior stays visually tidy. Earlier in the process, a custom template was also made for the cabinet sides because visible edges aren't part of the design intention. With that detail, everything fits tightly and flows together, giving the entire section a clean, seamless finish that feels intentional and well integrated. Time to wrap up the kitchen. There's still quite a bit left to finish. Everything also needs to be painted and lacquered to protect it for long-term use. Meanwhile, Brendan and his friend Bjorn are up on the roof, mounting metal racks and solar panels. Just like the rest of the van, the kitchen is designed to be handleless. To make the doors easy to open, they cut a slanted edge that naturally acts as a grip. The color is black. It's not regular paint, it's a stain. The goal is a deep opaque black while still keeping the wood grain visible. With standard paint, the surface gets fully covered and the natural texture disappears. But stain works differently, letting the grain still come through and stand out. To get that rich, even finish, Sanne applies 2 to 3 coats. After that, everything is sealed with a strong lacquer, especially the countertop, to protect it from scratches and everyday use so it can hold up over time. They wrap the gray water tank in insulation. Since they often travel to colder regions, this helps protect them from night frost and sudden temperature drops. For full winter camping, This setup wouldn't be enough, so it will get upgraded later when real cold conditions set in. The countertop is treated to handle heat, spills, and everyday use, so it can take the wear of daily cooking without getting damaged. An electric induction cooker is also fitted in, giving the couple a safe and efficient way to cook inside the van. To make the kitchen fully functional, the sink with a faucet is installed and connected to the water system. Step by step, the kitchen starts to feel less like a build and more like a real living space. Now that the build is done, it's all about the finishing touches. They add small details like soap dispensers, curtains, and cushions to make the van feel more like home. But not everything fits perfectly, and a few adjustments are still needed along the way. New cushions and curtains finally arrive, and with that, it's time to wrap things up and bring real coziness into the camper. After months of planning, rebuilding, and fixing mistakes, the camper is finally complete. Brendan's craftsmanship and technical precision shaped the build from the ground up. At the same time, Sanne's eye as an architect brings balance to the entire space. Together, they create something that goes far beyond a simple camper conversion. And there were plenty of challenges along the way. In a van, nothing is perfectly straight. Unexpected problems appear constantly. Some pieces need to be rebuilt multiple times before they finally fit. Mistakes happen too, but those moments become part of the story of the build. What makes this camper special is not only the craftsmanship, but also the feeling it creates inside. Even though the space is compact, it never feels small. Every centimeter works intelligently, and every area flows naturally into the next. It feels less like a vehicle and more like a tiny modern apartment placed on the road. The kitchen especially becomes the heart of the van. Since Sanne loves cooking and does it incredibly well, creating a fully functional cooking space always mattered. Despite the limited size, the kitchen feels complete, practical, and surprisingly spacious, designed to make everyday life on the road feel natural and comfortable. And eventually comes the moment where all the hard work finally feels real. Their first dinner outside in nature. A bottle of red wine sits on the table, candles flicker softly, while the evening slowly settles outside the windows. For the first time, the van no longer feels like a project. It feels like home. And under a sky full of stars, somewhere between the mountains, the van becomes part of their story. Every project starts with an idea and slowly turns into a story of its own, and this is only the beginning. Subscribe to Macarium for more full-build journeys, and leave your ideas in the comments. There's always another challenge waiting to be built.